This conference will now be recorded.
All right, there we go. Okay, well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And my hope is that you learn something new and you get at least some takeaways from this. Many of you may have already seen parts of this presentation in the past. I've given bits and pieces of this at meetings such as the Georgia ARES annual conferences out at GIPSTIC. I've done a number of online classes for various ham radio groups around the state, either virtually or in person. So, I tend to recycle good material, and I think, what I've got here is pretty good. If you've seen this before, just hang with us. I think you'll see a few new things at the end. And if it's new to you, well, pay attention. You're going to learn something interesting. All right. Okay. So what are we going to talk about this evening with the Georgia ARES Situational Awareness Map? A little bit of background, some recent changes and updates. We'll talk about the information in the map. We'll talk about how to use the map, and then we'll go in live and we'll actually play around with it, just give you a sense of how it works and how you can use it for AUXCOMM or ARES or just general amateur radio use. So what is the situational awareness map? So it's a web-based mapping tool that's designed to provide really any amateur radio operator with a multi-platform, up-to-date, and always available situational awareness tool. When I say multi-platform, I mean this will run on a desktop, on a laptop, on a tablet, on a phone. Okay, and you don't need to do anything. It'll dynamically reconfigure itself to run on whatever device you've got, as long as it is a fairly current Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS device. It should run perfectly fine on whatever it is you've got. Okay, so a little bit of history. This all started back in 2016, and it really started as a personal project of mine. I was really frustrated with the inability to see the distribution of repeaters around the state, and I thought I could do something a little better than what you saw on the online sites like repeaterbook.com with the data. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get all the repeater information I can. I'm going to put it into a map that I create and see if I can't do a better job. That kind of grew and morphed, and I had some discussion with David Benoist, AG4ZR, who wears a lot of hats, but one of the hats that he wears is he was also in charge of repeater coordination for CIRA, and of course he's the ARRL regional director or state director, and he's heavily involved in ARES. And I approached him and I said, hey, listen, can I get data from the CIRA database? And he said, not no, but hell no. But I think there are other ways to get what you need. So we started a collaborative effort that became something called the Georgia ARES Repeater Database Initiative. And we launched this at the 2018 State ARES meeting. And at first, this repeater map was just the front end to the ARES Repeater Database Initiative. And I'm not going to talk about it tonight. Just know that it's out there. And then it went through a few iterations. And then in 2019, I relaunched it as the Georgia ARES Situational Awareness Map. And we'll talk about why. Okay, let's talk about the technology that's running in the map. Okay, so the map is built and hosted using a web platform called ArcGIS Online, and that's a service that's provided by a company out of Redlands, California called ESRI. They are the big dog in GIS worldwide. They are to GIS what Microsoft is to operating systems. But they're a benevolent giant. It is still a privately held company. It's really the personal vision of one guy by the name of Jack Dangerman. Although he's getting up there in years, he's very dynamic, and one of the things he really believes in is making this technology as widely available as possible. So the map is not just graphics on a web page. All the data in the map is stored in databases. Most of it's in relational databases, so it's smart data. And it's drawn from multiple sources. Really, the only data that I personally develop and maintain that you see in the map is the county laydown, the repeater information, and then the laydowns for things like the Georgia hospital regions, the GIMA regions, and of course the ARES regions. Everything else is data that is provided by other folks who participate in the ArcGIS Online ecosystem, and they make their data available, whether it's NOAA Weather Radar, whether it's live data, live traffic data feeds, whatever. This is all information that is provided by individuals and agencies that participate in this ArcGIS Online ecosystem. And I will tell you, just about everybody in the Fed space and most states participates in ArcGIS Online. It is the #1 web-based mapping system that's out there. So a lot of the information you will see in the situational awareness map is provided by FEMA, by GIMA, by Department of Homeland Security, by the National Weather Service. Some of it is by DoD organizations like the National Guard Bureau. So these feds, these federal agencies are all also participating in this environment. Notice what's down there underlined. The map and all of the data are free to use. And there is no login required. You don't need an account. You just need the URL to the map. Okay, a little bit more about the technology. It's all browser-based. So you need a web browser. You cannot take this offline. Sorry, folks, just can't do it. Okay, so you got to have an internet connection. It runs just fine in just about any modern browser, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari. One browser it will not run in. And this is what causes a lot of the problems I have with people who contact me and say, it's not working right, is it does not work in Internet Explorer. So if you're one of those guys who's desperately clinging to your Windows XP laptop or desktop, I'm sorry, okay? This is not going to run well, if at all, in Internet Explorer. You've got to have Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or Safari. And then we already talked about the hardware. It'll run on just about all current generation or recent generation Windows, Mac, and Android devices, and iOS devices. So I think it's safe to say it'll run on just about anything you got. So here's an Uber Geek alert, because somebody actually asked this question. It was a good question. Well, how do you get those data in there? So the situational awareness map is nothing but a web template, and if any of you out there do web development, you'll understand what I'm saying here. The map itself, the frame, is really just a template. All of the data in the map is provided by what are called REST endpoints, and REST stands for representational state. And a REST endpoint is this little bit of code that sits on a server somewhere, and it's looking back into the database at a specific data package on a database, and it can be county laydowns, it can be repeaters, it can be just about anything else. And it sits there and it waits for calls for the data from web maps around the world. And these servers are specifically optimized to handle a lot of traffic. But that's really all it is. Every layer that you see in the map, even the layers that I build and maintain, are really just REST endpoints that are added to this map template. Okay, and that's how we can get this data into things like WebEOC. So WebEOC has an Esri, an ArcGIS Online compliant map interface, and to get any of my information into WebEOC, all I need to do is pass you the REST endpoint. The REST endpoint it's a URL. That's really all it is. Okay, and then that data will automatically appear in the map. Any questions? No, great. Okay, and here's some screen grabs from some format templates just to show it'll run just fine on an iPad or Samsung Galaxy S8. If you notice on the phone, it reconfigures itself, but it is fully functional. So all the functionality that you would get in the map running in a high-end desktop is also going to be available to you on your phone. Plus, with the phone, you get the additional benefit of using location services to kind of zoom you to where you are. Okay, so what data is in the map? So there's kind of what I've come to realize is a standard data, a series of standard data sets that have been in the map since the beginning and don't really change. So we've got obviously repeater data, the county laydowns, we've got hospital, fire, EOC, heliports, everything you see on that list there. The data you see in the map may change a little bit from month to month, year to year, based on the data availability. And what happens is, like I said, a lot of individuals and agencies participate in the ArcGIS online ecosystem, but they can also take their data down. And I've actually done it myself from this site because I realized there was some sensitive stuff I didn't want shared out. But they can take it down. And if they take it down, the only way you know they've done it is if you open up the map and you get an error that tells you, hey, this data feed is no longer available. And so I'm in here every week checking the performance of the data layers, looking for new stuff, pulling down stuff that doesn't work right, doing some reconfigurations, whatever. So you notice that third bullet there. I've got hospitals, fire stations, EOCs, law enforcement. You notice shelter is lined out. So the National Shelter Database is probably one of the most problematic layers I've dealt with in the last 3 years. It comes and goes. And I'm not sure why it comes and goes, but it throws so many error messages. And I get a number of emails and text messages from people saying, hey, I'm getting an error message. And I say, well, what does the error message say? Well, it's actually the National Shelter Database open shelters layer is not available. I said, oh, cripes, that thing again. So I went in and I just a couple days ago, I stripped it back out because it was just throwing so many errors. But anyway, so you can see all the stuff that's in there. This is not a complete list. This is just kind of a representative sample of the data that's in there. And like I said, what is in the map will change slightly from month to month. The other thing that I'll do is if there's heavy weather or something else headed to Georgia, like a hurricane, what I will do is I will go in the back end and I will turn the layers, for example, the NOAA hurricane and tropical storms data layer and the NOAA weather radar layers on, turn them on so they're on by default. So when you open up the map, the hurricane and the weather radar data is on by default. And then, when the storms have passed, I'll go back in the back end and turn that stuff off. It's still available to turn on, but it's off by default. So I just want to get the sense that I'm in here several times a week, checking the map performance, making sure things are working right, doing little tweaks, looking for new data layers that might be interesting to add, and making sure things are performing as I expect them to. Okay, so in the map, it's not just data, it's also tools. So we'll take a look at this when we run the map live, but there's a series of tools I call them widgets. You'll find them at the bottom of the map, but they add functionality to the map interface, and they allow you to do things like switch the base maps, obviously turn the data layers on and off. You can do searches, you can draw graphics, you can determine precise coordinates in a number of coordinate system readouts. You can print the map to PDF. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll just take a look at that. All right, so we'll take a little bit of a look at the 2019 to 2020 changes, because these were really the most significant changes that took place in the map since we launched it. So the first thing is we introduced a lot of WinLink coverage. We added a lot of WinLink gateway information, UHF and VHF packet coverage, and digipeaters. So, we're kind of getting serious about accurately representing the WinLink infrastructure in the state. Added some of the Georgia EchoLink conference coverage, Personally, I think Echolink is a very underutilized resource here in the state. We're all in love with DMR and C4FM and D-Star and all this stuff. But that doesn't help it when you're trying to reach into an area of the state and all they got are analog repeaters. So what works with analog repeaters? Echolink. Added other things like the regional hurricane evacuation routes, power outages, flood hazard areas, real-time traffic conditions. And the addition of these layers really reflects the shift from being just a repeater map to a situational awareness tool. Yes.
Yeah, so we lost you there for just a second. Or maybe it was just me. Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So there was a fairly major change in 2020. It was released just really just a few months ago, and that is we've expanded beyond just the situational awareness web map, and we have now launched what we're calling the ARES Web Map Resources website. So there were a lot of associated tools that I built to help folks visualize what's going on with repeaters and amateur radio in the state, and it just made the map too crowded. It just became too kludgy to try to shoehorn this stuff into the base situational awareness web map. So what I did was I peeled all that stuff out and made them their own little applications and gave you access to it through this Georgia ARES Web Resources website. So it provides expanded access to emergency communication tools and services. It's easier for me to manage because it gives me the elbow room I would need to expand if I needed to add a new functionality that didn't quite fit into the situational awareness map. I could carve it out as a new separate web map application and just add it here to the website. So it gives me a little bit more elbow room and expansion space. It is permanently linked from the Georgia ARES website, and we'll take a look at that. And it is now what I consider to be the default gateway to get to the situational awareness web map. Let's take a look at that, okay? First of all, I apologize. Let's start with let's go to Georgia ARES, okay? All right, so here we are at Georgia ARES. So to find this product, you go all the way over here to the left and click Maps, and it expands, and go down here to Georgia Situational Awareness. You click there, and the Web Map Resources page opens. The Situational Awareness map is embedded in the web page. It runs live in the page, or you can come up here and you can click this link right here and open it in its own separate tab. And what I always tell folks when they do that is bookmark, 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 okay? Because what'll happen is people say, how do I, can you send me the link to the web map? I'll say, no, go to the Georgia ARES webpage, go here, click here, because it's a learning process. I want people to get used to going to the Georgia ARES website and getting to the map that way, rather than me just trying to pass out URLs to half the state of Georgia. Okay, all right, any questions? All right, we're not gonna talk, let me find it here. Okay, so this is a whole other presentation. I'm not gonna spend any more time talking about this, but I do think it's probably worth the time to come back and go over a lot of the things that are in this web page, because you get a lot of additional functionality with these special purpose web maps, let's call them. But you also get the ability to download the data that I maintain. So you say, hey, listen, I want to get your repeater information, into a web map that I'm building. Maybe you participate in ArcGIS Online, you have another system that can take a file geodatabase or a shapefile. You can come here and just download the data and add it to your own web map. And then at the top, there's links up here to other things that we probably can talk about too. So this is a whole separate presentation. on the Web Map Resources website. If you want me to do a presentation on that, not a problem. Do it another evening. Okay. The other thing that came up, this is just about 3 weeks ago. Oh, my dog's freaking out over something, not sure what. We have been talking for quite some time within ARES about the idea of setting up county-specific web maps that do a deeper dive into county infrastructure and things like that. So in preparation for the upcoming SET, I was asked by Fayette County and by Butts County to put these maps together. So let's take a zoom into this one here. Hold on just a second. All right, let me get my dog. Yeah, this is the first time she's ever done it. She must hear something outside. So okay, I apologize. My dog's going nuts. I'm getting my wife to take care of it. Anyway, so here is the Fayette County infrastructure map. Looks a lot like the situational awareness map, and there's a reason for that. I just repurposed the template. And what we did was we went in, we added very specific information about fire stations, the one known shelter that we have in the county, our ARES membership, their locations, which theoretically will help with dispatching to support fire stations and other services, and fixed station information. So information about the stations we've got at the EOC, at one of the hospitals, at one of the city EOCs. So highly customizable. I can make these for anybody. Just understand, if you want one for your county, you need to pass me all the information. And also understand that everything that's in this map is is publicly viewable on the web. So just wanted to make that aware. So we're starting to get into county specific web maps. Okay, all right. So let me talk for a moment about how all this is funded, because somebody has asked me about that. Actually, every time I give this presentation at the state ARES meeting, I get asked this. So these products that I create are provided as a free and open resource. They're built using what's called a personal use license provided by ESRI. And it allows me to build web maps and sites in support of any nonprofit activity. But the license specifically prohibits the use for any commercial activity. And somebody said, why don't you set up a tip jar? I can't do that. Okay, so just like some amateurs, they'll set up repeaters. They like to set up repeaters and they fund it out of their own pocket. Other folks, provide loaner equipment and this, that, the other. I view this as my contribution to amateur radio in the state of Georgia. So it's always going to be free and available. But just understand that all of the information that is in this map is publicly viewable on the web. There's no way for me to lock it down. So I have to give, for example, hey, can you put, for example, our public service infrastructure, radio infrastructure in the map, but my EMA only wants us to be able to see it. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Whatever I put in these maps has got to be free and open on the web. And that's all just part of the licensing that goes on. I can lock things down. If you're interested, the cost is $500 per user per year. And I'll tell you where to send the checks if you want that level of support. So, okay. We already talked about how you find the map, so we won't go through that again. Just understand it's linked from the Georgia ARES website. And bookmark, bookmark, bookmark. I'm also going to say the worst time to learn how to use this map is when the eye of the hurricane is one county over. Get in there, play around with it. Don't worry, you can't break anything. Use it. You know, just get in there and play around with it. It's actually a fun thing to play with when you see how much information is in there and all the functionality. So get in there and learn how it works, learn how to turn layers on and off, how to use the search tools. You know, just get familiar with the interface. So, you know, when the hurricane does come tromping up through your county, you're ready to go. You don't have to, you know, spend an hour trying to figure out how this darn web map works. All right, so let's go take a look at this thing live. Again, how do we find it? We go to the Georgia ARES Web Map Resources page from the Georgia ARES website. It's running live here, or we can click this link and open it in a separate tab. Okay, when it opens up, you get this splash page. You have the option to click this little box down here that says do not show this splash screen again, which is okay. You can go ahead and do that. This is just kind of information about what's in the map. By default, when you open it up, all you're going to see is the county laydown and the 2 meter and 70 centimeter analog repeaters. Okay. So if you look here at the layer list and you scroll down, you'll see there's a bunch of information in this map. There's a whole lot of information. Okay. So to keep the clutter down and focus only on those things that most people come to this map to look for, everything is turned off except for 2 meter and 70 centimeter analog repeaters. Now, as I said earlier, it's smart data. So if you come in here and let's go to Fayette County because I maintain the information for Fayette County. Come down here, click KK4GQ. You click on the repeater dot or icon, and a pop-up will open up and it will show you everything that is in the Georgia ARES repeater database for that repeater. What you're actually looking at is a business table inside the database. And this is probably only about 50% of the available fields that are maintained for a particular repeater. I hide the rest of the information because it's just not relevant to what we're doing. Because there's information in there about who submitted the last update, you know, and their personal information, their contact information, and things like that. I'm not going to expose that publicly. So you'll also notice there's a little arrow here. When I clicked on that, it found 3 features at that location. So where I'm actually clicking is on the tower at Ellis Road in Fayetteville, on which we've got 3 separate repeater systems. So we've got the W4 PSC repeater, which is the Skywarn Link repeater. We've got our flagship KK4GQ 145.210 repeater. Okay, and click over again, and the W4 PSC repeater. Okay, so we've got those 3 repeaters on the tower. We got a few other things too, but they just don't show up. They're digital, they're not analog. So that's by default. If you want to turn any other layer on, it's simply a matter of coming over to the layer list and clicking the box and turning the information on. All right. And you'll notice, you know, a lot of it kind of stacks right on top of other features. And that's because we tend to generally speaking, we put a lot of repeaters on the same towers. So that's why a lot of stuff is stacked one on top of the other. So the information in the pop-ups will also differ depending on the kind of layer that you turn on. So let's just do D-star repeaters. Okay, and again, come over here to the KK4GQ D-star repeater. So what this one will tell you is who owns it, and it should also tell you what's not exposed here. I got to fix that. Is what reflector this repeater is normally parked on. It's usually 30 Bravo. Okay, I got to fix that. That's in the database too. I need to expose that. but it'll show you, it's got a link to our website, show you whether it's got backup power, whether it's been verified in the Georgia ARES Repeater Database initiative, who the repeater owner is, and the club or organization that owns it. Okay. So I've got repeater information. I have got network information, for example, the Peach State Intertie and the Southeastern Link Repeater Network. Those are just those repeaters that participate in those networks. And of course, Echolink and the Georgia Echolink Conference Node. But as you come down here, excuse me, as you come down here, you start to get, let me turn these layers off here. You start to get into less and less repeater and amateur radio data, and you're starting to get into more of the situational awareness information that I make available. So for example, hospitals, okay? So the hospital data layer is actually provided by FEMA. No, I take that back. The Department of Homeland Security provides this data layer. So they control what hospitals are in the database, and they control information about the hospitals in the database. I am just taking their data feed and adding it to my map. Okay. So if you turn the hospitals layer on and you look at the coverage for your county and you say, that's not right, we built another hospital over here, I can't help you. Okay. I will tell you that these national level databases, and that's what this particular database is, it's a national level database, just filtered just to show hospitals in Georgia. These get updated at best maybe on a 5-year cycle. So there's going to be errors in the data. That's unavoidable. That's why we launched those county-specific web maps where the county ECs and some of the EMAs provide us the updated data. For example, I can't turn it on here, but I know if I turned everything on for Fayette County, it will show our EOC in the wrong location because the data set was updated before we moved the EOC to its current location. Okay, that's just, it's just the nature of the beast and how data on these national level data sets is managed. But we've got hospitals, EOCs, Red Cross chapters, military installations, airports, public schools. I mean, down the line, okay? Lots of public schools, huh? Georgia traffic cameras. Okay. And I'm seeing here. So these are camera locations that are provided by Georgia DOT. And if you click on a camera, what you get is the most current static shot taken by that camera. And if you click the camera link where it says more information, it'll just open that static shot full page. Okay. Let me get back to my own web map. I get lost in my tabs sometimes. Okay, there we go. Okay, so camera feeds. So again, the Georgia DOT provides this data. They participated in the ArcGIS Online ecosystem. I just grabbed that data feed and added it to the map. Power outages by county. This is an interesting one. This is provided by GIMA. This is commercial sourced information from a company called, let's find it here, poweroutages.us. This is a commercial service, and I know it's a very expensive service because we looked into purchasing it for the airport. And I am continually surprised that GIMA year to year pays the licensing fee and makes it available free of charge. So, what is an out? How does a county get on this list? Well, if there's just one reported outage, one household without power in the county, it'll pop up here. Now, we can't really tell you anything about the status, where that outage is and who's impacted. This data feed just tells you that there is an outage in that county. Have no idea what's going on in the metro Atlanta area, but there's a lot of outages, except for Fayette County. That's pretty good. And if you, again, if you click on it, it'll tell you customers tracked for Meriwether County, 13,318. Customers reporting outages is 52. So, 0.39% of their customers are reporting outages. And you can click on the county information, and it gives you the current outage information. Pretty good tool for situational awareness, and as long as GEMA makes it freely available, I'll leave it in the map. We've got the ARES districts, GEMA districts. Scroll down here a little bit more and talk about traffic conditions, live traffic conditions. Okay, so this is I'm sorry, this is not Waze, this is not Google Maps showing traffic. This is kind of a high level, what we call an anonymized feed on traffic conditions, but again, it's freely available. The Department of Transportation makes it available through the ArcGIS Online ecosystem. And when you combine the traffic conditions with the cameras, you can then say, well, hey, what's going on here in Bibb County? It's yellow. Let's take a look at the traffic camera and see if we can see anything. Now, unfortunately, we don't. But in combining these data layers, you're going to start to see, oh, okay, I can start to use this a little bit for situational awareness. Let's see if we can. So we got a red one. We got a red issue right there. Doesn't look like there's a traffic camera there though. Isn't that always the way it is? Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. This is yellow. Let's have a look here. It doesn't tell us anything. All right. Have no control. You can't get the live video feeds, and of course, you can't control the cameras through this interface. But it does give you an opportunity to develop some situational awareness. Okay, let's turn that information off. Let's go to one of the most popular data feeds that we have in here, and that's weather data. So we have active hurricanes and tropical storms. I don't think there's anything still out there. We'll zoom out. Let me turn off those EOCs. Airports, military installations, Red Cross shelters and EOCs. Zoom all the way out. Okay, the only thing we're seeing is one storm in the Pacific. That doesn't help us much. Let's turn on NOAA weather radar. Short duration warnings and NOAA weather radar. Okay, well, we can turn the radar on, and we can see they're getting wet in Northwest Georgia. Okay. So when you combine these layers, active hurricanes and tropical storms, short duration warnings, weather radar, and short duration watches and advisories, you start to get a pretty good weather picture. This is the same data that NOAA makes available on its own websites, and it's what gets fed directly to the commercial weather services like weather.com, like the local news outlets and things like that. It's the exact same data. The data is all set to refresh on 5-minute intervals. So after 5 minutes, you will see the radar update itself and shift. There's no way to bring historical weather data in here so you can kind of loop it and watch it move dynamically. That functionality just is not available. And frankly, you're looking at history. I don't want to know what happened, 30 or 40 minutes ago. I want to know what's happening now and what's likely to happen in the near future. Okay. All right, we'll turn that off. And the last thing I want to talk about is U.S. National Grid. Being an old Army guy and a topographer and a surveyor, U.S. National Grid, which is really just the military grid reference system, is near and dear to my heart. I think as emergency communicators, in conjunction with the agencies that we serve, need to pay more attention in getting more comfortable using US National Grid. I deal with coordinate systems almost every day. And I will tell you the absolute worst way to pass information about location is latitude and longitude, because there are so many opportunities to get it wrong. And invariably, people do get it wrong. The U.S. National, and that's why the U.S. National Grid was adopted. It was adopted after Hurricane Katrina, and I think it's a service that we need to get really good at and start making more use of. But again, you know, we're led in this by our served agencies. If they simply don't want it, then okay. But you know, if they ask the question, yeah, we should be using U.S. National Grid as we coordinate activities. So that's the data layers. Let me really briefly go over the functionality. Let me turn off US National Grid, okay, and come up here and turn on some repeater information. Okay. All right, so at the bottom, you see this bar that's got all these little circles in it. These are called widgets, and a widget is a little block of code that adds functionality to the map. So we have a widget that provides legend information, okay? We have the layer list. The layer list turns on by default whenever you open the map. We have a widget here that allows you to select a new base map. So by default, the map is set up to use what's called the topographic base map. But let's say that just you're just looking for something on the ground and you just can't identify it off of a map. Okay. For example, you really want to see where this repeater is. What you can do is you can come in here and you can click imagery with labels. So you see imagery with labels and then imagery. It's the same imagery data. It's just that imagery with labels has got an overlay on it that gives you the county boundaries, some street information, some place information. So if you select there, okay, you get some fairly good high resolution imagery that you can zoom in fairly far on and take a look at. And what you're looking at here, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but there is the Ellis Road Tower. It's leaning, obviously, because this was an oblique image when it was taken, okay? And this is where this is our main repeater location in Fayette County. 350-foot tower, commanding location, okay? So this is a free service. This imagery service is provided by Esri as part of the ArcGIS Online ecosystem. So in its worldwide coverage, and you know, you just got to open up the base map tool and pick the layer that or the base map you want. Another very useful one, if you want your information to pop, is what's called the light gray canvas layer. So what it does is it tones down the background map information and helps your information pop out. And there's other base map options in here too, and it's fun to just go in here and play around. Pick one, turn it on, zoom around, see what it looks like, and have fun with it. Have fun with it. Okay, so that's base maps. Attribute tables. So if I have got repeaters turned on, I can click here and I can open and look at the attribute tables for any of the layers that I currently have turned on. And this is kind of a geeky thing here, but you're looking at, again, the business table in the database that holds the repeater information. So let's say I wanted to look at the attribute table for D-star repeaters. I click here and it's actually showing me only those repeaters that are in the current map view, and that is our KK4GQ D-star repeater on the tower. If I zoom out, what will happen is you'll notice more and more repeaters get added to this list until I go all the way out to the limits of the state, and it will show me down here all of the D-star repeaters in the state. Okay, and each of these headers here, C4FM, DMR repeaters, varied areas repeaters, they all work the same. Okay, turn that off. All right, next widget is a measure tool. And with it, you can measure area, distance, or get a spot coordinate. So pretty simple. You've used this in other web maps before, I'm sure. If I want to know, for example, the distance between these two repeaters, I just click the distance tool, click here, click at the end, double click, and it's 30,453 feet. What if I want that in miles? I just come in here and change the option to miles. If I want to know the exact location of this repeater, so let me clear that, I can pick the point location option, come over here and click on it, and it gives me the latitude and longitude of in decimal degrees of that point on the ground. Okay, again, I'm going to clear that. So that's the measure tool. The draw tool is fairly simple. It allows you to, draw symbology and shapes and features and text, add them to the map. This is not a permanent add. As soon as you close out the map, these drawing layers that you add to the map go away. Okay, so just understand that. However, if you do add some drawing features to the map and you go to print the map, they will show up when you create that print, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So this is fairly standard stuff if you've ever worked with PowerPoint or any other graphics program. I'm not going to talk about chart because I'm still working on how the functionality that brings. Coordinate conversions. So we talked just a minute ago about getting spot elevations using the measure tool. Coordinate conversions is just a slicker and more comprehensive way to get coordinates. So you can either type in a coordinate here, if you want to, and it will zoom you to that location, or you're already there and you just want to determine that location. You just click on it, you drop that pin, and it's going to give you that location in decimal degrees, degrees decimal minutes, degrees minutes and seconds, or US national grid. And the good thing about this option is you can actually save it to your clipboard and drop it into a document. Say you're supporting an EOC and they want to know, hey, what's the location of I need the latitude and longitude for a road intersection, like this one right here. Okay. All right. So all you would need to do is say, oh, you want the degrees, minutes, and seconds, latitude and longitude. Just click that. It's copied to your system clipboard, and you can just open up an email, a Word document, and just drop it in there instead of having to manually retype all of those numbers and symbols. Okay. Any questions so far? All right.
Hey, Brian, one quick question.
Yes.
Do you support what 3 words as a coordinate type?
Okay. So if I were to turn on what 3 words functionality, I actually have to pay for a license for that to bring it into this environment.
Okay, that's enough said.
Yeah, and honest to goodness, I don't know anybody that uses what 3 words. I look at it like this, it's a really cool parlor trick. All right. And I'll admit the guys who developed it did a really good job. And for third world countries, in a lot of ways, it is a godsend, because if you've ever tried to work someplace like, just, goat rope Saudi Arabia, and I've been there, what 3 words could be a great way to identify your location, but it just doesn't have the level of acceptance, especially here in the United States, to make it a useful tool. I simply don't think so.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. If somebody sent me a text message with 3 random words in it, honest to God, I wouldn't know what they were trying to get across to me unless they said what 3 words in the text message. So, oh, okay, fine. Let me go do it. The what 3 words user interface is very good. You can go to the website and use it there, but it's if I were to bring it in here, I'd have to pay for the license to actually to resolve the what 3 words locations. And I'm sorry, I love you guys, but not that much. A new feature here that was added just about a month ago was the ability to add data. Now, again, just like drawings that you may put on the map with the drawing tool that we looked at, these are temporary. If you add data, it's very temporary, it goes away, but it is a good way to get something in the map that isn't currently in there that you want to take a look at. So let's give this a quick try. So ArcGIS Online, we're going to search within the ArcGIS Online ecosystem, and I'm going to search for Georgia COVID. Okay. And what I got is coronavirus cases in Georgia. Now that's by Johns Creek. I'm not sure I want that one. I tell you what, we'll just do state of Georgia current COVID. Add that data. Okay. And what it did was it added the COVID data. I think it's maintained by the Georgia Department of Health, and it's updated every day. Okay. Add it to the map, and you get to see what those statistics are. Okay. Now here's the problem. Watch what happens if I refresh the map. It goes away. Okay. That's just a limitation. I've asked Esri about the ability to allow that data to be saved as a cookie in the browser, and they're kind of like humada. We'll think about it and get back to you. Okay, because if it is saved as a cookie in the browser, when you refresh the map, it would come back. I think that's very useful. I'm not sure where they're planning to take this tool, but just understand it is there. It is a way to get your data in. And what's interesting is I searched within the ArcGIS Online ecosystem. You would be able to do that too. If there was a data provider who could pass you a REST endpoint, which remember is a URL, you can use the URL, just drop it in here. Or if you have somebody sends you a file that's a shape file, you see the options here: shapefile, CSV, KML from Google Earth, GPX, which is an export from a GPS receiver, or GeoJSON, which is another mapping format. You can, if you've got that on your local desktop, you can add that data, any of those formats. Okay. So just know in the past it was you could only have the data that I made available to you in the map. With this new widget that they just recently launched, they're now starting to give what they call unlicensed users the ability to add their own data to the map, just temporarily. Okay, share. There's a share button here. If you're looking for the URL, if your EMA says, hey, can I get the link to that map? You can use this to send it to them. If you run a website, or somebody says, you're supporting a large incident at GMA, and they've got their web team there, and somebody says, hey, listen, can you get this? Can we get this web map in this incident website we're putting together and updating? You can just come here and you can grab this iframe code here and pass it over to the web developer. Once they get it, they'll know what to do with it. They'll recognize it as an iframe, and they'll know how to insert it into the web page. Okay. Getting close to the end here. Print. Okay.
Hey, Brian, real quick on that share link. Does
Yes.
that share with the layers that you've selected? So say I did it with just the D-star repeaters. Would that link then pull up those layers, just those layers?
No,
okay.
It is. So by default, like I said, when you open the map up, by default, the only thing that's on is the 2 meter and 70 centimeter analog. That's what you get.
Got it.
Okay. So you would have to tell folks, hey, listen, when you open the map, go to the layer list, turn on DMR.
Okay.
Excuse me. To print. All right, so let's zoom down here, and let's say Fayette County, and I've got a bunch of stuff turned on here. Let me roll down here, and I've got airports turned on and public schools. Okay, and I want to, for whatever reason, I want to print this off and pass it over to my EMA, okay? What I can do is open the print tool. You get a default map title, but you can change that. So Fayette County. Okay, by default, you get an A3 landscape layout, but I'm going to go with an A4 layout, which is slightly larger. The default format is PDF, but you can also get it as a JPEG, a GIF, PNG, whatever else is on this list. If you go to advanced, you can do a few more tricky things. So I want to preserve the map extent. I'm not really concerned about the scale. I want to preserve the map extent, which is what we're seeing in the map right now. Oops, sorry. Everything else is just default. And I hit print. So what happens when I hit print is ArcGIS Online takes a snapshot of my map, packages it up, ships it to a print server that's running in the cloud somewhere, generates this map as a PDF, and sends me back the link to that map. So it just came back here. It's completed. I click on it, and there it is, Fayette County infrastructure. By default, it builds a legend that shows all of the layers that were turned on when the map was created. You can suppress that in the advanced options if you'd like. So it's just a PDF. From this point, you can download it to your local computer. You can email it off to somebody. You can send it to a printer, whatever you want to do with it. Okay. All right. Any questions? Nope. Okay. So the info link is just what it says. It's an info link to what's in the map, a little bit of information about how things work. So if you have any questions, I'd encourage you to read through this. Probably the most important thing is at the very bottom here is if you need to get a hold of me, contact me by email. It's real simple. It's my call sign at arrl.net. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you is, okay, so the search bar up here in the title. And I apologize, I know we're at the top of the hour, so I'll wrap this up real quick. So let's say you want to search for a repeater, KK or GQ, okay? What it does is it returns every hit in the database for KK4GQ. When you click on it, it zooms you to that call sign, and you automatically get the pop-up for that feature. Okay, so you can search for a bunch of stuff here. You can search for WinLink packet gateways, Georgia counties, repeater call signs, and street addresses. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is this little links button here that takes you to a few other things. And one of the things I wanted to focus on here is the change log. So this is a record of all of the key changes that have taken place in the web map since 2016. And really, this is just a Google Doc that shows how much change has come to the map over the years. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it took a while to load. So we having bandwidth problems here in Fayette County. But you know, you can take a look and see all the stuff that was added and removed and why, and what new features were added. This will take you all the way back to 2000. I think it starts actually in 2017 when we formally launched this. So every time I make a change to this map, I go in and I update the change log so folks understand what's happening in the map and when it happened. Okay, so here I talk about I updated the map splash page and information page. I added the open shelters information from GMA, and I have, you know, it's interesting. I added it, and then a couple days later I had to take it down, so I haven't updated this change log to reflect the fact that I took that data out. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's the GMA shelter laydown. That is valid. It's the National Shelter System open shelter layer was pulled because of poor performance. And you see that I did that on August 27th. Okay, real quick, let's go back to the presentation. and wrap it up real quick here. All right, go ahead and play. You can't break anything. And as I say with the second bullet here, playing leads to familiarity. Familiarity leads to expertise. The more you play with it, the more comfortable you are using it. Test it on your phone, test it on your tablet. I often get asked, how do I get it on my phone? Well, it's real simple. Open the map on your desktop, grab that URL, highlight the URL, email it to yourself, and then take your phone, go to your email on your phone. You'll have that email you sent yourself with the link to the map in it. And then on most phones, you can open it. You tap on the link, it'll automatically open on your phone. It'll reconfigure to run on your phone. And then on most phones, you can add a URL link as an icon on your phone screen. That's probably the best way to do it. The last thing here, provide feedback. I got to have feedback. If nobody comes back to me and says, hey, this is broken, or can you reconfigure this or change the symbology on that, I'm not going to pay any attention to it. But this is a tool that I put together for you folks to use. So give me feedback. What works, what doesn't work, what changes would you like to see? If there's any data you'd like me to see if I can get and add to the map, let me know. I'll give it the old college try. So what about your needs? So we've already talked about customized maps for counties. The other thing to keep in mind is I can support real world emergencies, and I have in the past. Okay, so if there is a natural disaster in Georgia, you can bet that I will be checking this map to make sure that it is operating, it's up to date and it's functioning properly. And if your EOC opens up and you need some real world support, maybe to add some data layers very quickly, or talk to your IT people at the EOC about getting something done so you get access to the map, or incorporate map features in another application, I'm going to be there for you. I can also support large public service events like the Georgia Death Race. We use this map to support things like the Cystic Fibrosis Cycle for Life. So we can use it to support public events, and I can provide any level of recurring training that you need for your ARES or AUXCOMM members. That's it. I apologize for going about 6 minutes over. Any questions?
All right, if you have questions, unmute, and now's the time to ask.
No? Okay.
Well, you did a fantastic job explaining that, Brian. That's I could see this is going to be a great tool for ARES, a great tool for our AUXCOMM partners, especially the fact that this data is shared. So what we're looking on here could quite possibly be what they're looking at in an EOC already, or in GMA, or one of our federal partners.
So I guarantee you, for what you see, for the layers that have to do with emergency response, so the schools, the EOCs, everything else, that it is the exact same data that they are looking at in programs like Web EOC. It's the same data feeds. Okay. So it may be symbolized a little bit differently, but it is the same data pulled from the same database.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is not necessarily map related, but it just hit me. I have a project after working the Georgia Jewel this weekend. This is something that I think could benefit us as we support these race events. And Brian, sorry to kind of do 180 degrees away from your map. Great presentation, by the way. I love coming over here and playing with what you've built, and seeing everything that you have spent, the past, I think you said you started this in 2017, seeing all the effort that you have put into this has been extremely awesome. The thing that I'm going to ask about real quick, and this may not be your ballpark, but if it is anyone else here that is listening's ballpark, reach out to me, kk4ylx@gmail. What I'm looking for, virtually raise your hand if you guys know what a Linux LAMP server is. What I'm trying to do is come up with a very, very, very simple, portable, if a little mini PC, or if I could get this to run on a Raspberry Pi 4, I think I could do it. But what I'm looking at is something I could stand up at a aid station. It is running, a Linux LAMP, that's Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. All I need it to do is serve up a web page where you could enter the runner number, and it might have 4 data points out to the side, time 1, time 2, time 3, and time 4. And so that when we're out on one of these race rodeos, because collecting the data after this past weekend before last ordeal, Snake Creek was just covered up. They had like 400 and something runners, and we saw them all twice. So that's a lot of data to capture and try to enter back in for us. If anyone has any experience putting together something like this in a PHP environment, please reach out to me with an email, and we'll get together offline. That's my question. Thanks, guys. And Brian, awesome job. Great project here. I love it.
Okay, I can't answer your question. It sounds like an interesting technological challenge, but that's really, that's beyond my skill set.
Well, you never know. It's like, okay, you don't know. You see this, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I know what he's got here, but my career prior to this has been IT, so I'm actually sitting here with a CentOS 7, and I'm close, but it's just one of those that if somebody is, more knowledgeable than I am, which I am not knowledgeable, I can follow directions and piece things together. An old database program person, but I'm just looking for something where I can have a served up web page that you could go to from your phone or tablet or whatever, via a local Wi-Fi connection to a PHP type, MySQL database. And you could just poke the number in, and then you could click one of those 4 time sets, and it would pull the time off the device clock and enter it into the field. This could be very simple of data collection for us. So, and I figure at some point down the road, we'd figure out another way to utilize it other than in races. So if anybody out there plays with MySQL, PHP, and a little, serving it up to a web screen or a web page, please reach out to me.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
No. Okay. All right. So like I said, if you want, if you would like some instruction on the Georgia ARES web map resources page and the functionality that's there, I think you'll see some things in there that'll go, oh my gosh, it's, for example, the ability to do intervisibility analysis between 2 points, stuff like that. I think you find that very interesting also. Okay, well, thanks everybody.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your all the work you put into this, and for taking your time to present this to this organization.
Okay.
All right, everyone that's still on, our next training is October 29th, and we'll be, our training class will be Emergency Management Operations with the Hall County EMA Director, Casey Ramsey. He's going to walk you through a day in the life of emergency management, and pair that up with a surprise speaker who's going to talk about boots on the ground during an emergency and how the two work together. So if you keep your eyes on our Facebook page, our Groups IO in the newsletter, you'll see the invite come out for that. And as I promised, I'll leave this slide up. These are links to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube account, which this will be posted on YouTube tomorrow, our website, and Groups IO. So I want to thank everybody for joining and look forward to our next training class. Everyone have a good evening.
Appreciate it, Joe.